Hello there, my lovely. How are you doing? I hope you're having the most fantastic week. That is my hope for you. That is what I'm projecting to you. And my intention is that this conversation really allows you to live into that feeling that we want to capture of our days, of our weeks, of our months, where we feel like we're making progress, yes, towards whatever goal it is that we have, but also like we're really feeling the moments, we're really present in our gratitude and in all the good feelings that we want to have of the day. So this conversation is going to empower you in that, to that end, by helping you discover why you self-sabotage right before you hit your goal. Have you ever seen that visual where there's a guy that's like a gold miner and it's like a cross section of a cave that he's mining in, or a tunnel he's digging in, and he's like this with his pickaxe, and he's like sweating and he's doing all the things, and it goes to another frame and he's given up, right? There's a tiny bit of wall left, and us as the viewer can see the cross section of the tunnel. So we can see that right on the other side of that tiny little bit of wall that he has left is the treasure, is the gold sitting there. But he's given up because he's tunneled all of this way and he hasn't hit gold. And he doesn't realize that right there, just one more hit, a couple more pummels with that pickaxe, and he would get to his treasure. I often think about that visual in the in the helping my clients and women in general understand how close they are to their success, so they can keep that front and center and not allow discouragement, defeat, frustration, tiredness to be what stops them from continuing to dig so that they can reach their treasure. So we're going to talk about why it is that so many women, especially high performing women, self-sabotage right before they hit their success. And we're going to talk about it in three kind of buckets or categories to help you differentiate or really bucket out what is going on for you, so that you can arm yourself more powerfully. You can empower your thinking, your belief systems, your actions in a way that helps you stay in it long enough to hit your goal. You know that I always say your success is inevitable if you don't quit. This is going to help you with that if you don't quit part of the equation. Okay, so let's get into it. I realized that I didn't even introduce myself. How rude of me. If you're new here, my name is Sabrina Militello. I am a coach and founder of Empower Her Coaching, and these are the kind of conversations we have on a weekly basis. So welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Okay, so I've got my notes like I've been promising to keep doing, so that I stay on task and give you the actionable things that were all in my brain when I was kind of mapping out this conversation. So the first part that I want us to really dive into is this identity side of the equation. I don't think that we can have a conversation about success. I don't think that we can have a conversation about self-sabotage on the way to success without talking about identity. You will never outperform who you believe yourself to be. It will not happen. And if by some chance you reach a level of achievement that is beyond who you believe yourself to be, you will never be able to hold it or keep it long term. Your identity plays such a huge role in your ability to reach the heights that you're striving to achieve in your life. And I shared this on a post that I made on LinkedIn yesterday, that identity is not a frou-frou thing when it comes to success, because success is not about strategy, it's about identity. I believe that to be true wholeheartedly. It's why my Inevitable Woman private coaching experience with my one-on-one clients is so identity driven. It's so focused on helping you rewrite, rewire, reframe, recreate your identity so that you are the woman who can step into these rooms, step up to these levels, and hold it long term without destroying your health, your relationships, and your quality of life. That's a big disclaimer. So the identity piece in this conversation is hitting identity ceilings. Is there a way in which you view yourself that puts a ceiling on your ability? One of the reasons why you may have found that you self-sabotage before you have the ability to reach your success, before you reach that level of achievement that you're striving for, is because that level of achievement is right on the other side of a ceiling you've placed on your identity. Like if you imagine you're right here, right? You're right here. You're doing all the things, you're trying all the things, you're creating all the things, you're showing up in all the places, you're operating right here. The ceiling of your identity is right here. Everything you want is right here. So it's not that you can't achieve your goal, it's that your ceiling is on the wrong side of the achievement that you're striving for. Can you understand that? So in order for your ceiling to elevate, you have to start believing in something different for yourself, in something greater for who you are and what you are capable of. So what does that look like practically? There's so many roads that we can go down when it comes to up-leveling your identity, but I'll start with this very simply. Your relationship with yourself has to shift. How you see yourself, how you talk to yourself, what you believe to be true about yourself, that inner conversation and internal narrative, that has to change. If you are somebody like I once was, who talks very negatively about herself, who doesn't believe that she's capable of much, who doesn't believe that she's worthy of much, whether that's because of certain ways in which you've been treated in your past, maybe it's messaging you received growing up that you weren't worthy of very much, maybe you came from a very tumultuous childhood, tumultuous family environment, and you learned some things about yourself. That fundamental underlying knowing has got to change in order for your ceiling to up level, to lift, to raise, right? How you relate to yourself, because that's what a relationship is how you relate to another being. So in this case, yourself has to change. In order for you to start seeing yourself differently, you have to start relating to yourself differently. How you talk to yourself, how you view yourself, what you believe yourself to be capable and worthy of. Those things have to shift. And when they do, the ceiling starts to shift. And the better that relationship becomes, the higher the ceiling can elevate until it lifts high enough to accommodate that level of achievement that you're striving for. Can you see what I'm saying? So I really want you to do a journal exercise and kind of try to understand and unpack and unveil for yourself where your current identity ceiling lies. And then bonus points, maybe do a visual representation of what I was just describing for yourself about where the achievement you're striving for lies. Where on which side of the ceiling that currently exists for you does it sit? And if it's above the ceiling you've identified for yourself, now you can visually see the work that needs to be done. All right, so that's the first piece, your identity ceilings. And I really want you to do that exercise for yourself. All right, the second piece is something that, I mean, I sometimes hesitate to talk about fear because I feel as if it's somewhat over focused on in the coaching arena. I feel like because of the prevalence and the acceptance of therapy, which is a wonderful thing, that it's no longer frowned upon, that people go to therapy, and people are much more open about seeking therapy and therapeutic interventions than they ever have been before, which I strongly am a fan of. I often think that we we tend to slap a label, as at least from a societal standpoint, of therapy. And what I mean by that is social media. People on social media kind of sharing these snapshot quotes or snapshot pieces of advice that kind of want to label fear as the cause of everything. It is the culprit of all the things, right? So I almost don't want to talk about fear, but I don't feel as if we can talk about self-sabotage right before you reach your levels of success without talking about a fear of expansion. And what I mean by fear of expansion is whenever you're requiring something more from yourself, then more of yourself is being asked of, for, in, at, right? More of yourself is being asked. So in order to be able to hold and be able to accommodate the more that is being asked of you, you have to expand, you have to grow, you have to elevate. There's a piece of you that has to kind of break through what has been possible for you before. And that can be a really scary process to go through. If you scroll back a couple of weeks, I think it was the week we talked about, it just went out of my mind, but it was a session a couple of weeks ago where we talked about the fears that we have of the new version of ourselves, or the new season we might find ourselves in, and how that can be a grief kind of navigating process. Listen to that session. Go through that coaching session again if you did already listen to it a couple of weeks ago, because I think it so greatly touches on this point about fear of expansion. It can be really scary to ask of more from yourself. It can be really scary to expect more from yourself. And something that I don't allow my clients to get hooked on for too long, it's something that always shows up. I barely say always or never when it comes to my experience coaching individuals, human beings, especially women. But in this instance, this is something that always comes up, is I don't want to disappoint myself. I don't want to ask too much of myself. I don't want to put myself on the line. And the reason why I don't allow my clients to get stuck there and hooked there is because I greatly believe that we should be allowing ourselves to put ourselves on the line for the lives that we want to live. I heard someone say once that you should never risk your ego for something that you don't care about, but you should never risk something you care about for your ego. And that's all fear is ego manifested in some way. So when you're saying, I don't want to disappoint myself, I don't want to be disappointed, so I'm not going to pursue the thing just in case it doesn't work out and I'm disappointed, I won't allow you to get hooked there, because there's always going to be that risk, right? If you're out there trying to achieve something that you've never done before, there's always the risk that it's not going to go the way that you want, that you're going to fail, that it's not going to work out. But the alternative to not risking that is that you never pursue the things that you want to pursue. And I don't believe that that is a life. I don't believe that that is a life. So I don't allow my clients to get hooked there. of not wanting to disappoint themselves, because you should be willing to risk your ego, because that's all that that's showing up as, for the kind of life, quality of relationships that you want to live. So fear of expansion is one of those things that is an ego driven fear, because it's scary. It requires more from you than maybe you've ever given before, or maybe you're comfortable expecting. But it's necessary and it's required. If your goal is success, whatever that looks like to you, the premise of the word is something I've never had before, right? A level I've never achieved before. That's kind of what that word breaks down to. And so if you've never had something before, you've never achieved something before, of course it's going to require something of you that you've never had to show, develop into, build before. It's part of the process. So fear of expansion is something that you cannot allow to sabotage you on your way to your goal, especially when that success is right there, like it was with the guy tunneling with his pickaxe. All right. So identity ceilings, I want you to explore that. Fear of expansion, I want you to look at that, but don't allow yourself to get hooked on it. And then the final piece is your nervous system. We've talked about your nervous system a lot. I think every single conversation over the last 3 weeks or so, we've talked about it. Maybe that's telling me something that I need to know about where my mind is at. But I think so much of our ability to really step into these new seasons that are requiring more from us is giving ourselves the support to step into those seasons. And that's what nervous system limitations, nervous system kind of restrictions are. Your nervous system, so everything that allows you to manage and regulate your mood, your energy, your vitality, your vibrancy, your creativity, all of that stuff, your focus, that where the limit is on that, on its functioning, on its effective functioning, is going to show you where the limit of your capability is, of your being able to follow through is, right? So in order to support yourself so that your nervous system is not the thing that sabotages your forward movement, your progress, especially when success is right there, you have to create routines, rituals, systems, processes for yourself that support optimal nervous system regulation. If your success, the thing that you're striving for, really is important to you, if it really is important to you, this piece is not going to be this is so inconvenient. This is going to be something that you recognize is a must do. People talk about self-care a lot, especially in our social media world. We talk about self-care a lot. Maybe with your girlfriends, you talk about taking bubble baths and going shopping and, having a cupcake date. I don't know. I'm being flippant and I shouldn't be. Self-care is great. Self-care is important. But I think we bastardize self-care in a lot of ways, and we put self-care into a bucket, into a box that is very limiting. Self-care, yes, is bubble baths and poetry readings and sitting and reading your book and going for a shopping date with your spouse or having girls' night. Yes, those things are self-care. Washing your hair and everything shaved, like that's self-care. Massages, facials, all of that. But what is also self-care is prioritizing your sleep. What is also self-care is meditation. What is also self-care is grounding practices. What is also self-care is breath work. What is also self-care is giving yourself white space in your calendar. What is also self-care is hanging out with people that you really enjoy their energy. What is also self-care is boundaries. What is also self-care, can you see what I'm saying? So it's really important that when you think about how can I support myself best in the goals that I have and the success I'm striving for, you're considering your nervous system, aka your practices of self-care, What can that look like for you? How does that show up for you right now? When you think about self-care right now, what is your preconceived notion of it? And how are you practicing it? And is that what you're doing truly supporting your ability to not sabotage your efforts in your goals? And a simple example I have for one thing not necessarily supporting the other is if you're right now, one of your self-care practices is that you have a girls' night every Friday night and you eat pizza and you drink 5 bottles of wine and you eat lots of popcorn and 12 boxes of chocolates and you stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning before you have to get up at, whatever time the kids get up or whatever time you have to go to your job or whatever time, whatever. Is that actually supporting you being able to function optimally to achieve the goals that you have, to go out there and do the things that you need to do to ultimately bring forth the reality that you want to live? The answer is no, in case you're confused. Yes, you get that great girl time and that great bonding and that great social interaction. Maybe it feels great for your soul to be with these humans and just chilling and being you. You can do all of that without feeding your body all of those things that don't foster a great night's sleep, that don't support your best energy, that don't have you think about getting good quality rest. Can you see what I'm saying? So it's really important that you understand that just because it feels good emotionally for you to do that, it doesn't necessarily translate to it being good for you long term. And now I'm not the fun police. I'm not here to tell you that you can't have girls' night and do all the things and veg and binge and do whatever. I'm just talking about, in this conversation, the things that may be sabotaging you right before you reach your level of success. And when I'm talking about sabotaging you right before you reach your desired level of success, I'm talking about the things that do not support that continual motion. And so the things that are contributing to you quitting on the goals that you have. Your identity ceilings, your fear of expansion, and your nervous system limits. Consider those 3 things, how they're showing up for you in your life right now, and what needs to shift in your focus or practice in those 3 areas of your life so that it does support. You can have an identity that is high enough to encompass the achievement that you want, that you're not operating from a fear of, from a place of ego protection when it comes to the things that you're scared of in your forward progress, and that you are optimizing for your energy and vitality in order for you to keep showing up and doing the things. I really want you to consider those 3 areas, how they're operating for you in your life right now, and different ways in which you can shift that dynamic so that you're not the guy with the pickaxe, burying and foraging for gold, who's going to give up right before she reaches everything that she wants from this life. I really hope this conversation served you. Give it a thumbs up if it did. Perhaps consider sharing it with somebody who you think needs to hear this message. If you haven't followed the channel here, please consider doing that. I would love it so much. Leave me a message, send me an email, send me a DM on Instagram. That's where I hang out the most. And let's talk about ways in which I can support you in the pursuit that you have of your more. I'm going to put in the caption below the link to look into working with me in my Inevitable Woman private coaching experience. If you're at that level where you just need the tip over the edge to get you where you want to go, maybe working with me one-on-one, it's a bit spenny, but it's worth it. Obviously, I would say that, but I think coaching is incredibly valuable when it comes to getting you to the next level in your life. Then the application, I'll put the link there so you can look into it and then apply, and we can see whether we can expand on our relationship. I would just love the opportunity to do that. So until next time, my darling, Work on these 3 areas, all right? Your identity, your fear of expansion, your ego-driven like limits there, and your nervous system practices. Work on these things because they will help you no longer sabotage yourself on the way to your success. I love you. Mean it. Take care.